So welcome back into another Dragon Ball Super Card Game Fusion World video, and today marks the first deck profile I'll be doing, and it's going to be none other than aandroidd 1718. These guys are a little bit different from their Masters counterpart if you played it back in set 1 or 2, and it's a little bit simpler, but at the same time, you know, just as complicated, where we do have a draw one on swing, which is nice because we don't always have that for all of the leaders, and we do have a untap at 4 or less draw one, flip it over and you become another draw one 20k leader 17 and 18, which is pretty cool in name. We don't have the traits for anything else, but at least you have the name for the 17 and 18. But at 6 or more energy, this gains 10k power. So basically you are a draw one 30k beat stick after you start ramping, which is the entire point of this deck. You do have a lot of ways to do that. There's a lot of different things you can put into this. Obviously green in general has a lot of stuff for ramp, and what this is no different, but the biggest difference is how you ramp. This is basically one of the first lists that I have been experimenting with and playing and testing and things like that. This is the one of 2 lists that you'll see in this video, and this kind of focuses more on like a hybrid Gohan, you know, a lot of the green stuff that you can play, along with obviously the androids you can play. Very specific stuff, and of course I have a little bit of notes here. The general gist, in my opinion, is that, yeah, this is RAM focus. This is this is a focus into getting more and more things late into the game, and then taking advantage of what green has to offer. And with this, it has a number of cool things where draw can kind of make or break the game. Sometimes it feels pretty bad to not draw it in the early game, and then later on draw all of them. So there is that possibility. And we'll go through some of these cards as well, but it does kind of lose to aggro. There's some answers for that. There's a few things that you can do in order to, you know, avoid getting ran over, and a little bit of part of the play style. And you know, overall, at least for this deck list, there are a lack of good combo power cards, right? There are some where I don't think you can see my cursor, but the aandroidd 20 only has 5k power. Son Goku, where you want to, you know, draw and filter out, only has 5k power. But a bunch of other ones, aandroidd 17, aandroidd 18, the Son Gohan, etc., even Turles only has 5k power. So in the way of defending yourself, sometimes it does become hard because you have not so much or not so great combo numbers, which is why for like something like 17 here, you do want to use the 10k combo power for the critical 17. And of course this can be switched to the other 17, which you'll see in the other list. This does require a little bit of sequencing. For instance, you know, when you do play Dr. Gero, which again we'll take a look at it in a second, you know, you do want to kind of play that when you have 4 energy. If you're going second, then it's turn 3, which is also very good. And it also requires a bit of sequencing when it comes down to managing your drop, which we'll take a look at in a second as well. But it does have a great top end. You do have the Turles at 5 and being able to ramp into other things, where 17 and 18, the 6 drop, has that double strike, which if they don't really like, the thing about the double strikers in this game, there's only a handful of them, and if they can't remove it, or they try to threaten them and they can't remove it, then it becomes a problem, because double strike is just really good. I mean, there's not really much else to say about it. It is just something that every card that has printed on it, it just becomes a problem as they go. And the 8 drop Broly, and as well as the 6 drop Gohan, all are within your late game. That previous list also isn't playing the Son Gohan, the 7 drop that we do see here. I did previously use a 1 of for that. You can probably play 1 or 2 of, but I was trying to trim it down to about 50 to 52 cards. So that's the reason why you don't see it there. One of the reasons why we also only use the gigantic meteor at 3 is because sometimes 4 is just too much. It just becomes a tad bit cloggy, and depending how you play, for me, I just want to keep playing stuff on the field. It just doesn't work out too well. Now, the reason why we have 2 Son Gohan, the 6 drop in here, is because late game, it does become a little bit more important against critical leaders. So against like Goku Black or the other critical leaders, literally any of them, it's a little bit better to gain that life back late game than it is to take the critical hits, basically, if that makes sense. Other reason is why is that this has a 6-drop 16 that has a blocker, and then when KO'd, you play this on Gohan, the 6-drop from your drop. So basically you get a 35k body and recover life after you block. And the only issue with this is that that I ran into is that if you're going against red, they can easily remove it, and due to game mechanics, it doesn't count as a KO. So literally against anything that's not red, it's pretty cool. And sometimes you have to wait until you get into that point to play it, because sometimes you don't want to play at 6. It's, you know, there's a couple of things that go with it, which is why I was leaning towards more Android's build and not focusing on that. And then instead just using 6-drop Gohan as a utility thing. You know, when you're at 2 life and you don't want to get double striked, then you play the 6-drop Gohan, that type of thing. This build in specific also has the 4-cost 17 and 18, where we did play the 4-cost 17, where it is a 3 or more target cost for the 4-cost of Vegeta, for that way you can ramp. And then also you're able to play the 3-cost, which basically gets you an energy back, or the 18, which is super important in this deck. Of course, we play the other 18 in this list. Again, this is more of the 17, 18 4-cost focus. Gives you a little bit more consistency for the Jiro's lab, and you're able to play the 25k 3 costs for free on the 18. And now, if you're wondering about the 2-cost trunks, this is a last minute ad. This is something that I saw when I was doing sealed, when I was doing pre-release, and I read the card. I was like, okay, cool. A bit of a beat stick. And there's a couple of cards like that in the set, and just in general in Dragon Ball before too. But the reason why I like it here is because it is a cheap something where, you know, as you can see, the only 1 and 2 costs that we really have is itself 18, and then the 1-drops. And when you see a 1-drop, it's cool, but establishing the Trunks feature against something that plays out a lot of things like Yellow or Ginyu or something like that, it helps a lot, where you can swing into their 20k bodies, and you can have this as a 10k. I did see this in a couple other lists, so, you know, I'm not the originator, I'm not like anything like that if it does become a little bit popular for that, but it is pretty cool. So shout out to you if you are running it. Anyway, for that was pretty much for those who wanted to see the list. But if you haven't seen this already, you know, the whole point of the deck is to get Jiro's lab out, pay the 1, which, you know, the reason why I think this card is so good and why I like 17 and 18, obviously I have bias being an Android 17 18 fan. The fact that you can activate main, pay 1 every single turn, and get the energy back into active mode and not neg anything is pretty crazy. And on curve, it's great because, again, on 4 energy, you're able to just get that energy back and then go to 6 the following turn. The reason why you do play 17 and 18 is this card, because your leader does have to be 17 and you play all of the androids. So again, the 4-drop here, the 17 and the 18 4-drop pretty much play themselves or play each other respectively. So this guy plays the 3 costs or less. So this 3 costs that you can swing, take an energy from or back into your drop, and then add 1 back into your hand. And that's kind of important because basically for this 18 and as well as the second 18 here are 2 filtering parts. So early game, you can pitch out in your 6 drops, 7 drops, 8 drops, whatever you need to do that you don't know, you know that you're not going to need in this in the matchup. And of course, the Dr. Gero, right? So if you have a lab in hand, the 18 here and as well as the other 18 to 2 drop are going to be very important. You know, these are very important pieces. Maybe not so much the 3-drop, but definitely the 2-drop, in order for you to keep going through your deck and making sure that you don't clog up. Some more support as far as ramping goes. So you don't have to play the Turles. I think I like Turles because it is a 30k swing into most 20k bodies. And the only downside is that he is a 5k, and you do require 3 or more from your drop and your energy, which is kind of why I like the 4-drops, 17, 18. I think that's why they kind of go well, because you can just combo those out, play with Dr. Gero, or use Turles instead. Same thing for Vegeta. Vegeta's pretty cool because he is a 10k combo. He's only a 20k. I wish he was a 25k, but I think he would be a little overtuned if he was. On play is that you play a 3 or more from your drop in rest mode, Deterreless places in an active maze wall since you're at 5, playing 5 instead of 4. And, you know, it's a weird curve because usually you kind of want to play the Dro in turn 4, so that way you get the energy back immediately. However, which by the way, I didn't mention this, but the reason why you want those 1-drops in here as well is because you do always have that extra energy from Dr. Dro's lab. So on the time that you do play it, or later on, you can play the 1-drops as well right after. So there you go. The thing about these guys that's important is that Vegeta helps against something like Genyu or any of the other 2-drops that kind of spam the board. Obviously, you don't really want to tap out for it, but if you have to, then this is a good way to do that. The 6-drop that we're talk about in a little bit also is good, but you know, it's kind of expensive. However, for Vegeta, as it is a cool 10k, it is a cool thing to ramp with, and you do have the option where you can play Dro on 3, going first, and then after that, ramp into 5. The falling turn after you charge, and then play this for 4, and then ramp it to 6. So that way you're on 7 the next turn. You have 1 up for Gigantic, and as well as playing out the 6-drop we'll take a look at right now. Yes, right now. Either the Sun Gohan, where you can recover a life, add the top card from your deck to your life, or the 17 and 18, where you can pop two things, that is 3 or less, and then threaten 40k double strike. And you kind of want to play these cards pretty much immediately, the 6 cost and as well as the 8 cost, because they are, again, 0k combo. Sure, you can probably get rid of them with the 18 effect, the 2-drop, and then placing a drop, and then that way you can ramp. But these are the reasons why you want to ramp anyway, right? 40k double strike and 2 removal is really quite good, and then probably being able to play a draw 1, pop 1, and then dual attack 45k, we all already know is really good. Now, the thing about the Broly card here is that it takes forever to get to 8. Even if you are ramping every single turn, it takes forever to get to 8. More realistically, you are going to be playing the 6 costs, the 5 costs, whatever, even the 4 costs more often than not. And, you know, I think that Broly does help with a lot of different slower matchups, so like blue and as well as green. And then for everything else, 17, 18, along with Gohan, it's probably going to go ahead and take care of the business no matter what. Here's some considerations. We have an Android 20, where you pay 3 and you KO the card, look at the top 10, you place up to 1 Dro's Lab. The reason why I don't play this is because it's up to 1. There's a way to whiff. So if this was like place in rest, it would be great. You know, it's a 10k body, so I don't know why they didn't do that. It is a 3 cost, which is why, you know, all these other things have like 3 or more, etc. It is an Android, so it kind of goes with it. It's just that risking whiffing in a long standing tournament, so like 6, 7, 8 rounds, right, is gonna feel really bad. So more often than not, you're probably not gonna whiff, and if you draw into one, you can just use it as a 10k combo, but you shouldn't take that risk. I think this is not a good card for you to take a risk on. So Moa, look at the top 5, you get a Paragus or an extra card. I don't play enough extras, and I don't want to play more extras, to be honest. We see the brother-sister combination on the right. Maybe you can play that, along with a Paragus that takes a life to awaken, so that way Moa is going to be a little bit better, and then that way you can search your Jiro. But, you know, I don't think it's really worth it. It's a 5 king combo, and you don't really have that many targets. It doesn't feel that great. That's the reason why I don't play it. And then brother-sister combination is opponent's turn only, which is a bummer. And it gets 20k battle, which is good. And then 15k or 15 cards in your drop or more, you get to ramp 1, 3 or more from your drop to your rest mode, or from your energy to rest mode. And that's pretty cool. I think that is one of the things that, you know, deters me from this deck, is that you have to have 15k cards. What do I keep saying that? 15 or more cards in your drop. If it had like 10, that might be a little bit better. But I think because it is 15 or more, it's not really worth it. I think it is nice to have a 20k power extra card in addition to Gigantic, but I don't really know. This is something I have to test a little bit more, and you will have extra energy, so I will say that. So for more defense, this might be good. And finally, we have the 7 drop. We are playing in the second list. You can play in both lists. You can play in general, right? This is like a really good card against a lot of different decks, right? It's just feels kind of bad if you are playing the mirror, for instance, where you play this for 7 and then they Broly and then they swing at you twice for 45k. I think that's the only times that this kind of feels bad outside of the 0 cost combo power. But as you add more and more things that are not Android, it becomes a little bit weird of what you can combo and play and stuff like that for Jiro. So I would say, yeah, definitely add it if you have it. That's pretty much it. So on Gohan, the 5 cost that pops a 4, I don't think it's really that cool, but I think why I would consider it is because this is a 30k body. And the reason that's good is because like most of these like 4 or 5 costs are like outside of vanillas are 25k, and this being a 30k 10k combo and being able to remove something is pretty sick. Now I would play it in the first list if Android 16 said 6 or less, not 6. If that was the case, then I would definitely play this, but nope. And Big Bang Attack, I think this is a good ad. Really good removal just in general. Like this really targets yellow's top end, some of blue. What else? So a lot of red actually, and not so much for green. Outside of Turles, like there's not really that many great cards I would consider to put this into green. We don't know if there's going to be pre-side, you know, this might be a really good pre-side card, if anything. That's what I would say for this one. Pretty quick deck profile. I know I didn't get too much into detail, but these are like preliminary lists. I think like if anybody's making lists right now, I highly doubt that there's a ton of testing and as well as good competitive play. I think when we do see the events and we have the opportunity to play in these celebration events this weekend and as well as in these coming weeks, it's going to be a little bit better, and we might have a little bit more of a scope of everything as far as the format and the meta. But right now, I'm pretty optimistic. Every deck doesn't feel like it's broken. I think green is great. However, playing like Ginyu when it pops off, or playing like U7 Goku when it pops off, you know, there's a lot of things that feel really good. And like I said, not very overpowered. I think everything, for the most part, outside of maybe blue, can win. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.